computers. An item which a lot of people use nowadays, which is almost required. There's so many things that you can do on it, like gaming, working, gaming. You can do a lot of things on computers, but what about the 1980s? If we go back in time, there's a lot of different choices between stuff like Mac OS, Windows, or Linux. So, let's take a look and see all these computers. Most of these games were loaded from cartridge, tape, or floppy disk. We'll be taking a look at their hardware and games. So, let's get started with the VIC-20's hardware isn't anything impressive, as it just has a text mode, so all these games are just standard text characters moving around. However, their textures have been changed, so they look different. You can see with a lot of games that, well, you may see some weirdness going on. You'll see that a bit later. But it was revolutionary for being a very cheap computer at an affordable price. So, can you really blame it? Omega Race. This is a standard shoot 'em up, where for some reason the scoreboard is in the middle. Okay. And you just move your ship around. It's kind of difficult to do so most of the time I just bounce around the walls like a idiot. It's difficult to actually move, so I would recommend that strategy if you play it. Next is Buck Rogers, a third-person game. First up, the title's a lie. I mean, I don't see anyone named Rogers in the game, so yeah. Overall, the game is pretty good. You have to fly between these posts and shoot down some enemies. It's pretty cool, and for the VIC-20, it looks pretty good. Miner 2049er. This game is pretty simple. You just move and try to go every single place on the map. Every time you walk, the floor changes, so you'll know that you've been there. It's a pretty simple concept, but if you know what you're doing, which I don't, it's pretty fun. Though at the same time, I have no idea what I'm doing, so yep. Dig Dug. I've talked about this game last time, but this game is on so many systems, so if you haven't seen the Atari 7800 episode, I'll fresh you up. Dig Dug is basically a simple game where you have to kill all the enemies. You can do it by inflating them or dropping them under rocks. I had no idea about the rocks thing the first time I played it, so yeah. That was annoying. Yep. It's a pretty good game. I like the graphics of the 7800 version, or NES version, a lot better than this. But, hey. It's still Dig Dug. The great Gina sisters. Yes, it's like I don't want to rip out my ears.
We're sorry. At the moment, the footage in this video you are looking for is not available. At the tone, please press subscribe.
Pitfall, that game that everybody remembers from the 2600 and primarily the 2600. Pitfall's a great game, but this version isn't that good. Yeah. I would take the Atari 2600 version of this game so much more. It looks better. The controls are around the same. I don't know. All that I'll say is that Pitfall on the C64 looks disgusting. So we have Q*bert. This game is pretty good. You just have to move everywhere on the screen. It's another simple concept, but works pretty well. You know, there's actually a version of this on the VIC-20. I wonder how that looked. Yeah, you can see what I mean with sex modes. Yep. They're not good. The Atari 8-bit machines, or the 8-bit family as they're usually called. It's a lot of systems that started out in 1979 with the Atari 400 and 800. Then there are a bunch more systems like the XL, XC systems. There were quite a lot of systems. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to really play any games. It's an emulator problem. Not only does keyboard functions, but the emulator itself didn't read two of the games, and one, which was Q*bert, none of the inputs worked. So yeah. I attempted to download some external ones, but they're all in source code, and I have no idea how to work it, so yep. I can't do anything about it. Maybe in a future episode I'll take a look at it, but in the meantime, we're stuck. Another one which I can't really do is the Pet. I only got 2 games, and this is similar to the VIC-20 as it only had a text mode, but you can't even modify the text characters. You're required to use them for your graphics. Space Invaders was the only one in which I got to work in the emulator, and it's probably the least noticeable with this, but other games, if you can find them, it's pretty noticeable that they were limited to only text characters. In this version, I can't control it because, like I said, RetroArch has a bunch of hotkeys on the keyboard, and, well, I can't make use of any of them. So, yep, that's a big issue. I tried to download an external emulator, but none of them seem to be able to open actual files. That's from what I can see, so, yep. That wasn't that good. What? The Amiga series. The final computer line from Commodore. Yeah, it did pretty well, and it was a pretty good 16-bit machine. And it had quite some iconic things, like the famous ball demo. Unfortunately, as well, I wasn't able to play any games. Not because emulator issues, it's because apparently it requires a kickstart ROM. I'm not sure what is wrong with it or what it is, but yeah, I don't understand any of it. So I'll just rate it by the ball demo. Pretty good. "3D Monster Maze." This is a pretty good game for the system. It's a first-person game, which on a system like this, which isn't really that fast and has barely any RAM, 1 kilobyte to be exact, it is pretty good. It's a simple game, you're just trying to get to the end while avoiding a monster, and yeah, it's pretty fun if you know what you're doing. I don't, so I end up just running around the place in a circle and then getting killed. That happens a lot. The controls are a bit weird, but that's probably because, like I said, I'm using an emulator and not an actual ZX1, which has... Wow, that's a bad keyboard. A disgusting keyboard, but at least I'm not using that. Then we have Civilization. I have no idea how this works. I don't know how it works. Then Pac-Man. This is a pretty simple version of the game, and yeah. I don't think I really need to explain Pac-Man. Then we have Hot Pursuit. How do you even work this game? I tried out all the inputs, but nothing worked. I'm not sure if I'm moving one of these two, but just nothing really works. I don't know how. Though some of these games were a bit limited, I mean, yeah, the system costed $50. Which, at the time, was really good for a computer. Like, nowadays you can buy a Raspberry Pi for $35, and it is pretty good, able to handle 4K video, but back then, a computer for $50 had to cut so much corners. Which is honestly unbelievable that Sinclair was able to even make that. But then they continued the ZX81, and then it led into probably their most famous system. The Spectrum is pretty good. Well, the ZX81 had only a text mode and not that much characters, which couldn't be modified, making it kind of a worse pet. The Spectrum had the opposite. It had only a graphics mode, which was pretty bad for doing actual stuff in BASIC. Besides the keyboard. Wow, Sinclair can't design a keyboard really good. It was limited to 2 colors per cell, which, if you see in the games, it's pretty obvious. Also, if you don't know, a single cell is 8 by 8 pixels. Mario Bros. Talked about this game last time as well, but here we are again. You just kill turtles. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. The game is a bit weird for controls. Like, I need to use the 6 and 7 keys to control and then 0 to jump. I don't know why, but still, at least I'm not using a Spectrum keyboard. It's weirdly controlled, but it's still Mario Bros. It's pretty fun. Then we have our only movie-based game, Star Wars. Hopefully Disney doesn't sue this video. The game is pretty good if you know how to control it, which I don't. You need to use some of the keys to fire. I don't know how to actually shoot anything, but it's a first-person shoot. It's a space shooter in first person, I guess. I'm not sure, but it's pretty fun, I guess, if you know how to do it. Which, of course, I don't. Overall, the Spectrum was pretty good. I only showed off 2 games, but a lot of people loved the system. Unfortunately, it was limited to only being released in, pretty sure, the UK. It did get a release in the United States, but it was not that well known. It sold barely any units, and actually trying to get one now. Yep. That's expensive. The system was one of the first big computers. And while it was technically monochrome, it utilized NTSC artifacting to create colors on the screen, which can look kind of disgusting, but hey, it's color. Pac-Man. I know how to move left and right, but I have no idea what the controls for up and down are. It's Pac-Man. Does this need explaining? Donkey Kong. It's Donkey Kong, I guess. Start to Mario's journey. Didn't I say that last time? Like Pac-Man, I have no idea how to go up on these ladders, but I know the controls. For some reason, that activates the keyboard controls. You need to press Control K, or Option K, one of those two. It doesn't make sense on why. The game does look pretty good though, and yeah, that actually sounds fine compared to DK on the Atari 7800. These were pretty good systems. You can do a lot of things with them, and I actually forgot to mention that all of these primarily run some form of BASIC besides the 16-bit systems, which allows you to make your own games, which is really cool. Many people which grew up with these systems actually learned programming since, well, you had to do so much stuff to actually load the games. You need to type in commands, you need to load in commands, you need to do a lot of stuff. And wait 15 minutes for a disk drive to open, but